Who will benefit the most from Tony Vitello? Will vets actually listen to a first-time manager and first-time person in Major League Baseball? And also how the Giants rebuild the farm system. That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Alan Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, the Alan Stiles Show, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercats games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we will talk about who will benefit the most that's currently in the Giants system from the hiring of Tony Vitello joining the team, why vets would want to play for him, and will they listen? And last but not least, how the farm system can mirror what Tony Vitello wants and how the Giants can rebuild it. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and turn your bet into money. You'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So, who will benefit the most from Tony Vitello? Right? That's the question today. Who will benefit the most from Tony Vitello? Happy Friday. Happy weekend if you are listening or watching this on your weekend. And let's just eliminate some guys right now. Number one, obviously, we're not going to count Drew Gilbert as far as benefiting, because I'm not talking about it like that. I'm not talking about preferential treatment, obviously, or anything of that sort. I'm talking about the way Tony Vitello goes about his business, what we know now from what we've read, from what we discussed on this show, from what we've read outside and listened to outside of this show, who we think will benefit the most. So I will eliminate Drew Gilbert. I will eliminate all the guys that are actually from Tennessee because, look, they will benefit, but it's not in the way that it might come off, the preferential treatment, anything like that. They'll benefit because they'll be comfortable with him. So that goes without saying. Let's eliminate anybody from Rocky Top. Let's eliminate anybody that played at Tennessee. So who else could that be? Well, I think there's a very obvious one, right? And I'll give you a second to guess. Yeah, it's somebody who I don't even know. Can this guy, is he 21 yet? Bryce Eldridge, I'm not even sure. He might have just turned 21 or 22, but that's who I would have on this list. Bryce Eldridge, who is 21 years old. Bryce Eldridge, because he was drafted out of high school and because he did not get the college experience, obviously, because he came right out of high school, this is somebody that I think Tony Vitello is just sitting there thinking, I can't wait to get my imprint and my hands all over who this kid could be. Obviously, the Giants know that we have missed out on some saviors before, but this is a guy who has a tiny, tiny bit of Major League Baseball experience. That exit velo has been insane. Obviously, as a first baseman, he's still growing, and he's willing to continue to grow. He came in as a two-way player. Some people don't even remember that because time is flying so much. Bryce Eldridge is somebody that I think Tony Vitello is very excited to get in here and mold. Who wouldn't be excited to mold a 21-year-old, 6'7" behemoth mountain of a man that can hit the ball a country mile, right? And goes about things the right way, wants to work his tail off, wants to be the best version of himself. So I think Bryce Eldridge and Tony Vitello, this could be a match made in heaven. And some of those situations in the past, I'm not blaming the managers for why a Marco Luciano didn't work out or why a Joey Bart didn't work out. I'm not blaming them, but I do appreciate Buster for bringing in somebody who's going to put an emphasis on some of these younger guys that the youth will save the world. The youth will save the organization, because this is what you need. You look around at everyone who has been successful over this last what, half decade, full decade, even prior to that, you could even include the Giants. You have to hit on your draft picks. It's that simple. You know, you look at the Blue Jays, obviously they got Vladdy Jr., right? Guys like that who they knew they wanted to target in on. Then the Dodgers, as much as I can't stand the Smurfs and go Canada, I'm not rooting for them in the least. The Dodgers, they basically mastered the ability to, number one, bring guys up that they draft and have a ridiculous farm system. And number two, if they deem this person expendable, use them to go get another chip. Everybody will talk about, yes, the Dodgers do spend a bunch of money and they may be ruining baseball, but they've also done it where, hey, we have these trade chips because our farm system is so elite. So that's something that the Giants need to focus in on. We're going to talk about the farm system as well. But as far as who's currently on the team that could benefit from the hiring of Tony Vitello, I have, like I said, Bryce Eldridge is number one on that list. Number two, I'm going to say Heliot Ramos. I'm going to put Heliot Ramos on this list. And for this, obviously, this exercise, we're not talking about trades, anything like that. We're just assuming that these guys are going to be on the team heading into the 2026 season. I think something is there with Heliot Ramos. I think he has decent speed, right? Especially in a world where you can only pick over so many times. I think that he just needs his game tweaked a little bit. And the next two guys I'm going to say, including Heliot Ramos, I think they're in the same conversation for different reasons. So it's an identity conversation. So I think Heliot Ramos defensively needs to be better. I think that Tony Vitello can help with that. Just fundamental stuff. So defensively, fundamentally, he needs to just be better. Base running, right? What do you practice in high school and college baseball? Base running. What tends to get overlooked once you get to the major leagues? Base running. I think that is something huge that Tony Vitello could help Heliot Ramos with. It might sound silly, and you might say, how did you get to the big leagues without knowing how to base run? Because he can hit. And we all know that things get looked over when you're really good at other stuff. That's just life in general, right? That's just life in general. So Heliot Ramos, to me, is a guy that if Tony Vitello can get his hands on him, we could see a better version. We could see a better version. So that's the second guy. The third guy is another outfielder, and it ain't Drew Gilbert, and it ain't Grant McCray, and it ain't Encarnacion. The third outfielder that I'm going to say is Jung Hoo Lee. And Jung Hoo Lee, again, to me, not the same as Heliot Ramos as far as the defensive aspect, but Jung Hoo Lee has no identity as a baseball player. He has zero identity as a baseball player. He's not a leadoff hitter. He's not a power hitter. He doesn't steal bases. We don't really know what Jung Hoo Lee is as a hitter. And I think that Tony Vitello is somebody that could figure out what Jung Hoo Lee could be. Maybe he's a hybrid, right? Jung Hoo Lee, to me, just because, he doesn't have that blazing speed, or at least he doesn't steal bases. To me, like I said, back in the day, Jung Hoo Lee is a two-hitter. To me, and I know they all strike out a lot, but he kind of profiles as an old school two-hitter. He doesn't have to be, because I know nowadays you just put your best hitter at two. So Devers is going to hit two, Adames three. That's fine. But I also think that your salary shouldn't matter. And if Jung Hoo Lee at whatever million he's making, it's a decent contract. It's not ridiculous. If he is best fit to be a nine hitter, I do think there's a little bit of, well, we don't want to hit him nine because we're paying him X amount of money. And that's not something, I know there's NIL in college now, but that's not something I think Tony Vitello is going to care about. Whatever makes the most sense. You could, if Devers is the best nine hitter, which would not be the case, but if Devers is the best nine hitter, make him the nine hitter. So I think Jung Hoo Lee is the last person on this list that I think could really, really benefit from Tony Vitello and Tony Vitello's ability to take raw talent and give it an identity, give it a purpose. So those are the three guys I would keep an eye on as far as who will benefit the most from Tony Vitello: Bryce Eldridge, Heliot Ramos, and our guy Jung Hoo Lee. On the other side, will vets listen to Tony Vitello? That's what everybody's saying. They're not going to listen. He's never played. All right, let's talk about it. That's coming up next. Locked On Giants. Don't move. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Heliot comes in. Heliot offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Heliot makes it so easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms or no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private. And it's all handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnMLB to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnMLB. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnMLB so they know we sent you. Heliot. Stop making excuses and start making moves. So one thing that keeps getting brought up is, will vets listen to Tony Vitello? Will they buy in to what Tony Vitello is saying? I talked on it a little bit yesterday. I touched on it a little bit when I just brought up the fact that, I mean, he's still older than all these guys. Maybe not by a lot, right? But he's still older than all these guys. He's 47. It's not as if, you're bringing in, I've had a boss that's been younger than me before. It was different, but it's not that big of a deal. But this isn't even the case, right? I mean, Tony Vitello, in that case, and I know Buster's different simply because Buster played in the league. So I guess it's not really so much about age and more so about, Buster's 38. Right. There's dudes playing that are literally Buster's age still. So I guess it's not so much about the argument isn't about the age, and it's more so about obviously the experience. I think it's a little bit of combination of both, but I have some reasons why I do think that vets will listen to Tony Vitello. His reputation in the college ranks was built on passion, connection, and accountability. Three things that resonate far beyond the NCAA. What makes him different is his energy management, we'll call it. He doesn't coach with fear or micromanagement. He coaches with belief. Even when he was at Tennessee, his players talked about how he treated them like pros before they were even pros. That's the kind of respect that goes a long way in the major league clubhouse. And baseball minds are baseball minds, right? If he is saying things that make sense to them, and even if they're off the wall, I could see them saying, well, that makes no sense to me. But even still, you just missed the playoffs, right? You're going to give this a go. That's what I would say. Everything is better when you make the playoffs. So why wouldn't you buy in? Now, I think there's a difference between vets that are already in the clubhouse and bringing in new vets, but I think there are two different reasons why they would listen to Tony Vitello. If you're already on the team, like I said, you haven't been doing squat. Go back and listen to what Logan Webb said, right? We've kind of been stuck in the mud here for a couple years now. So let's change something else. Maybe the vets felt the same way too. Look, we love Bob, and I know they rode for Bob Melvin, but we love Bob, but we do need something different. See if we can switch this thing up a bit. And for the vets coming in, if you're a free agent or whatever the case is, okay, this guy has won at the highest level in his regard. Obviously not the World Series, but there's not a lot of World Series coaches running around. You know that, right? They're not a ton. And when you see other first-time head coaches perform at a high level, I think people are open to trying new things, especially nowadays. Another thing veterans will value is his communication style. He's intense, but he's also very transparent. That's the number one thing for me in life. Any boss I've ever had, just be as transparent as possible. I know sometimes you can't say everything because their boss has said, well, don't tell them everything. But transparency is key in a lot of these situations. He tells players exactly what's expected of them, creates a culture where confidence and competitiveness are celebrated. For vets who've spent years in more rigid analytic first systems, the human touch, that emotional intelligence, I think it could be a major draw. And it could be something that says, look, I want to, and we've talked about this before. When you nail that college kind of feel at the pro level, the way a Pete Carroll did and the Jim Harbaughs, guys like that have done, people want to be a part of it. It looks fun, right? Baseball is supposed to be fun. I'll also say this, and I just thought about this off the top of my head, and it might sound crazy. There's a little bit of nostalgia. I mean, when I'm sitting there cleaning dirty diapers, I got a 1-month-old and a 2-year-old. When I'm sitting there cleaning dirty diapers, and it's Saturday and I see kids in the crowd on college game day or whatever it is, man, I miss those days. I would love to be able to tap back into it, that energy that I had, that feeling that I had, the lack of responsibilities that I had. I love to tap into that. And I think there's some players out there that say, man, I want to go see what's going on in San Francisco. It's a party out there. It's a structured party. Let's not forget, I don't think they did it this past season, but they had the club in the clubhouse when they won games. I thought it was funny because they weren't making the playoffs, but they had Brandon Crawford playing music, all this stuff. So people will gravitate to the nostalgia of it. To, hey, man, we're bringing college baseball, something that's very undervalued, I would say. Everybody needs to watch it, and I think more people are going to watch it this season because of what happened, and more people are starting to watch it. I want to bring that vibe to the pros, man. That'd be great. All the memories, right? People that were in your weddings, people that are your godparents to your kids, guys like that. I want to see if I can bring that to the bigs. Everything is so similar. Everything is so cookie cutter. So I think that could help as well. There's the winning mentality. Vitello flipped Tennessee from a middle of the pack SEC team to a national powerhouse. Vets want to be a part of a turnaround, not a rebuild. And his track record suggests he knows how to build a program from the ground up, or in this case, a clubhouse. Finally, there's the Buster Posey factor. And players know the front office trusts Vitello to run things his way. Having Posey's backing, this is huge. Having Posey's backing gives him instant credibility within MLB circles. And nobody's talking about this. I haven't heard one person say this. Add in the chance to play for a manager who clearly values energy, loyalty, and growth, and suddenly San Francisco doesn't look like another team. As I've continued to say, it's a movement. We want to go out there and see what's happening, right? You ever played a game, and it could be any level, any sport. You ever play a game, and the Warriors, for example, the Warriors are rolling, right? Undefeated. But even throughout this whole time with Steph saying they play like joy, and we've seen other players talk about it in their podcasts that everybody has nowadays. Who am I to talk? But they've said, you look over at that bench and you got the bench mob. They're throwing towels. They're dancing, right? Whether it's a home game or away game. And you think, I kind of want to be a part of that. We're not having as much fun. And I saw, it seemed like a lot of teams during that stretch when Steph and the crew first started doing it at that level. Obviously, there's always been people celebrating on a bench, but you saw other teams try to copycat that energy, right? You saw teams try to jump up and down, and they're playing games on the bench. You saw teams trying to duplicate what the Warriors had kind of started. And I think that's something that can be built in San Francisco. And not only will other teams, you got to win games. Let me, they were 73-9 in 2016. Okay. Obviously people can say, well, whatever they're doing, I want to do it too. You got to win games, but you win games and you have fun, and people start looking around saying, I want to be a part of that. I'm over here on whatever team. And to be completely honest with you, a team for better or for worse that has kind of done that to some level, and that's more where they play and just the vibe of that ballpark. I still need to get down there. I think the Padres have done that a little bit. Now, they had Bob Melvin, which is funny, but the vibe of San Diego, hey, this is our team, this is our city. It was kind of a party down here. We're not LA. We can't stand LA. I think the Padres did that, but it was less about the actual team and more about they have a ridiculous amount of talent, and Petco is an absolute party, or it seems to be an absolute party. So it's not exactly the same as the team culture, if you will. That was a result of the city and the location and Tatis being on the squad and his energy and more so there, but we have seen it before. And I think Vitello, with all those things, could definitely convince some vets to join the crew. One more segment with you. Let's talk about rebuilding the farm system and how Vitello can start this turnaround the same way he did when he was with the Volunteers. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it gives so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. One more segment with you, and we are going to continue to break down all of the different intricacies of Tony Vitello's Giants. First time saying that out loud. And a really important piece of this is, I said rebuilding the farm system. I would say continue to rebuild the farm system because I do think that Buster Posey, Zach Manassian, I do think they've done a good job so far. We've talked about how they jumped from 28 to number 18, according to MLB.com. That was in the spring. So that's huge. I mean, to jump up 10 spots like that, and these guys are only going to get better. The international world, they're rumored to sign some big names, the Giants are. So they're going to continue to build this thing. But from Tony Vitello's perspective, I'm looking at this and saying, how can Tony Vitello make this mirror or allow this to mirror? In some ways, obviously, it's not exactly the same. Allow this to mirror the Tennessee program and everything that he built there, the culture, as we discussed, along with building and molding and refining talent. And he was really good at doing that. More hits and less misses when it comes to the farm system. Like I said, Vitello turned Tennessee into a powerhouse, but he did it by blending player development, swagger, and structure. Three traits the Giants can absolutely translate to their minor league system. I guess the kids say aura now, not swagger anymore. Success wasn't just about recruiting top talent. And I want everybody to focus in on this. It wasn't just about getting the top talent, which a lot of teams do, because I follow a lot of different prospect accounts and things like that. It's not hard to get the talent in the building, especially with the NIL money now. But what is difficult is maximizing the potential. And we've seen that not happen within the Giants organization. Joey Bart, Marco Luciano, time and time again, right? Not only did they recruit top talent, they maximized potential very often, more often than not. Every player that came through Knoxville left sharper, stronger, hungrier, and that's exactly the tone the Giants need to set from a low A level all the way to triple A. Let's talk about it, man. Drew Gilbert is a really good outfielder, right? But Drew Gilbert doesn't really have one tool that is a reason that he should have been a first rounder, right? Drew Gilbert really had no business. He's a gamer, but as a college player, obviously he was a stud. Tony Vitello, he put Drew Gilbert in a position to grow his confidence, to grow who he is as a player. And a guy who is 5'9", 195, who doesn't steal a ton of bases at the major league level, doesn't have one tool that sticks out to you. He got drafted in the first round. That's Tony Vitello. All credit to Drew Gilbert. But Tony Vitello, Drew Gilbert goes to 10 different schools. And Drew Gilbert is probably, and I know the draft has cut down rounds, Drew Gilbert might be in the top 10 rounds. I'd say he would be in the top 10 rounds. He goes to 10 other schools. But a first rounder at 5'9", undersized, doesn't have crazy pop. He got pop. He's not a tweener, but he's got very good tools all across the board. Very good tools. I don't know that he has an excellent tool. Drew Gilbert's a first rounder because he was able to maximize his potential. That's the type of stuff that can translate for Tony Vitello. Step one is culture. As I've said before, Tony Vitello, they weren't just good. They were feared. The Vols way was defined by confidence, competitiveness, and connection. The Giants need to instill that type of energy, celebrating the big moments, but holding each other accountable and playing with an edge when they need to. Step two is development over draft status. This is another big one. Vitello was known for turning overlooked recruits into stars by focusing on individualized plans, the mental approach, the pitch design, swing path refinement. These are some of the details I wanted to get into today because I spent so much time. I'm complaining about people hating on Tony Vitello. I got my San Francisco Seal shirt on, you know. So, I've been a bit Homer-ish the last couple of days because I'm really excited. I wanted to get back to some of the X's and O's and what the team and what Tony Vitello can create here. And that swing path refinement is huge. The Tennessee Volunteers hit ding dong Donkey Kongs all the time. They did play in an offensive friendly park. But I do think that Tony Vitello was really good at creating a staff because he is going to bring some guys along, right? And we talked about the staff yesterday. It's not just going to be hey, Buster has all say over Tony Vitello and the coaching staff. They're going to be guys that bring in. I'll liken it to out here, Sacramento, Doug Christie and the Kings. Doug Christie, he was interim head coach for about 50 games. Going into this season, they hired him as the head coach. And he brought in a couple of his guys, right? First-time head coach, even though he was on the coaching staff. He brought in some of his guys, but Scott Perry, the GM, he brought in some of his guys too that had been more seasoned and had been around. So I do think it will be a bit of a mix to continue to build what Tony Vitello wants this to look like. But with all that being said, those analytics that we talked about, the swing path, things like that, you blend the tech-driven precision with a player-first mindset. That's the balance that is going to take this thing to the next level. And finally, coaching alignment. Tennessee staff shared one voice from the assistants to strength trainers, all echoing Tony Vitello's message of aggression and self-belief. The Giants can mirror that by creating full system alignment, and that's not just with the big league level. That's all throughout the minor league system. San Jose, Eugene, Sacramento, San Francisco, of course. One voice. I know I sound like Drumline, that movie, that early 2000 movie. One band, one sound. And I don't think a lot of other teams and organizations have that. It's very disjointed. And this is what I'm talking about. This could start a new era of, hey, their minor league system is super connected, right? It is way more connected than other teams. You know what I mean? You never really see players shouting out minor leagues because it's all so much, it's all so individualized. And I think Tony Vitello can create a whole different era of and system and belief of we are one together. Obviously, it's competitive, and I'm trying to get pulled up before another guy gets brought up. But with that being said, you still can keep those moments and create a cohesive unit all throughout the organization. So I think it starts from the bottom up, making sure that when you do draft high, you don't miss. And those lower draft picks as well, you are maximizing their potential. And that is all of Tony Vitello's calling card. That's literally it. And also, I would say, obviously, money is a thing, but there's NIL involved too. Some of these guys that might go to college instead of taking the draft, guys like that are on the fence. Well, you're getting drafted to the Giants. You know who's the Giants manager? Tony Vitello. You know where he was really good? In college. So maybe some of these guys start signing instead of going to college, or that junior year, instead of going back for their senior year. This could all be really huge. Obviously, we got to wait and see, but it's exciting stuff. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @the_South Files with an I, as well as a Locked On Giants account. Have a great weekend, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, till a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.